homies, welcome back to another Dirtbag review. So check it out. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that came out in 1993. It's called Benny Joon, homies. It was directed by Jeremiah S. Chekik, and it's got a lot of good actors in it. It's got an amazing soundtrack, personally, I think, in my opinion. But I don't know, this movie's really cool because, it deals with I don't know, I guess you would call it a dramedy, because it deals with, like, family drama and, mental illness, you know what I mean? But it's a pretty female film, homies. Really liked it. Always, any chance I get, if it's on, I'll check it out for sure, But anyway, before we get into it too far, and before I show you the clip, I'd like to ask you, please, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share with your friends, because sharing is caring, homie. And don't forget to leave me a comment down below, because it helps me out in the algorithm. Tell me what you guys think of this movie if you've seen it, you know what I mean? But anyway, without further ado, let me drop down this this clip, and then we'll get back to it, all right? Feed me, homes.
Oh, goodness.
Alright, so check it out. Really like that scene. It's real funny. It's a really good introduction to that character of Sam, But I also enjoy it because it actually shows pretty much the four main characters in this movie, you know what I mean? But anyway, without further ado, let me just drop down how this works, So we got Aidan Quinn as Benny Pearl and Mary Stuart Masterson as June Pearl, who are the brother and sister in this movie, you know what I mean? Benny works as a mechanic. He's got his own shop. He owns himself. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. And his sister stays at home, she's under the care of various nannies throughout the movie, or they would like you to know that. They show you that in the movie, But about the first 30 minutes of the movie is showing you the dynamic of these two, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate it because it really, in that little bit shorter time of the movie, you get to know who Benny is, the struggling older brother trying to take care of his ailing sister, and his sister who, has a mental disorder, but isn't exactly crazy, but she's just got little, tics and stuff, It really helps you to get into who these people are, and how they work and their struggles together, And I really appreciate that in a movie, it's definitely show, don't tell, you know what I mean? Which is, in my opinion, great. It's a really awesome way to just start out the movie, But as it's going, Benny goes home because there's an issue with June, and her current nanny is like, I'm out, can't handle this chick. She's got outbursts. She's got outbursts that are really bad, which is foreshadowing for some stuff that goes on later on in the movie. So there is also tell not show, but it's acceptable in my opinion when it's foreshadowing. But anyway, so it goes on, and Benny's got his routines, he goes and hangs out with his buddies, who are Oliver Platt, who works with them. He plays Eric. And then you got Joe Gelfassi, who plays Mike, and Dan Hedaya as Thomas. So anyway, So these four guys, those three guys and Benny, have a poker game, right? So it's really cool because you get to see that Benny's also quite the card shark, you know. He takes June the first time there because he doesn't have anybody to watch her, and he's scared of leaving her at the house because she likes to set stuff. She likes to set stuff on fire, Holmes. Wow, I'm having a hard time talking today. So yeah, so she's a little bit of a firebug along with other things, you know. So he takes her along and stuff, and then you get a really cool scene with her wearing a snorkel and controlling traffic at one point, you know, which is pretty funny. But anyway, and that's also around the same scenes where we meet Dr. Garvey, who's played by CCH Pounder, you know, who's basically her psychologist, and she's actually trying to talk Benny into putting her in a home, you know, like in a group home, because she feels that it would be more conducive to her mental stability, you know, if she was among her peers. And Benny's kind of like, you know, in a tough spot because he doesn't get to live his life because he's constantly worrying about her, you know. So he's out and he's trying to, like, you know, talk to his homies and stuff, and they're sitting there at the poker game, right? So while he's outside, him and his buddy Eric from the shop, they're sitting outside having beers, and he's just complaining about life, and Eric is trying to talk Benny into, like, going ahead and letting June go to the group home, you know, so that way he can live his life, you know, too. So he's not just living his life for her, you know. So the whole time this conversation is going on, Thomas, Mike, and June are sitting in the house, you know, chilling, and Mike is getting a little agitated because he's like, hey, you know, they're late for the game, what's going on? So June's like, well, I know how to play cards. So they're sitting there playing, you know, and the way that what they ended up what they got, you know. So like for instance, Mike, played by Joe Galfassi, he's a cable man, you know. So he offers up stuff like that, you know. And then June starts offering up things like, you know, they basically start offering up services, right? Don't be a pervert, homie. So anyway, yeah. So so finally Mike's like, you know what? I'm putting up my cousin who's staying at his house, you know, and is driving him nuts, right? His cousin Sam, you know. So they put down the cards, and June lost, you know. So now Benny and June have got to take this dude Sam home with them, right? So then you get introduced to Sam, who's played by Johnny Depp, you know. And Sam is a really interesting character. Mike says that he doesn't know how to read, you know, but I think he just has a difficulty with it, you know. Once again, with mental health problems, people being a little, you know, different, you know, it's okay to be different. But this guy's whole shtick is he's very much like a modern day. I just had it on. It's not Benny Hill. It'll come back to me. But I mean, he does wacky stuff all the time, you know. Actually, give me a second. I'm gonna drink some water. I'll be right back, homies. Rough cut. Sorry about that, guys. I needed to drink some water, and I would have been super irritated with myself if I didn't figure out who I was talking about. So it's Buster Keaton. You know, that's his whole shtick. Is he does a bunch of Buster Keaton-esque escapades, you know, and he's just doing all these like cool little tricks. He's playing with hubcaps and, you know, all kinds of cool stuff, you know. So he goes home with Benny and June, you know, and they get him a little couch to sleep on and stuff, and he's all happy about that, you know. And as it progresses, you know, he's sitting there and he starts cleaning their house, you know, because he's staying with them, you know, and he's trying to do right by these folks, you know. And it, in his peculiar way of doing it, freaks out June, so she gives him the boot. But, you know, and then Benny comes home and she's like, well, I kicked him out. Well, not really, but he had to go and all this stuff. And he's like, well, what do you do? What do you do to piss you off, you know? And she's like, he cleaned. He's like, oh, you kicked him out for cleaning. And they're all laughing, you know. But anyway, they let him back in and stuff. And slowly, you know, him and June start having feelings for each other, you know, because kindred spirits and whatnot, you know. And what's really cool is, like, every time Sam's doing his weird stuff or having, like, his Buster Keaton moments, the composer, who is Rachel Porter, by the way, just, like, masterfully incorporates the music into the movie to give you the emotions through the music for when all of the cool little things are going to happen, And I really appreciate that about this movie, The music is on point, you know what I mean? But anyway, so we got Sam and June kind of doing their thing, and then they go to a restaurant where you saw in the scene that I shared with you, where Sam meets Ruthie, who's played by Julianne Moore. My bad, guys. I just trying to get it all together in my head to give it to you guys straight, all right? So anyway, meets Julianne Moore's character, Ruthie, and Sam recognizes her from a B movie, and he starts reciting all her lines, So they convince her to come back sometime and watch the movie with them, Well, this whole time, Ruthie and Benny are kind of starting to feel each other, you know what I mean? And then, like, he has to take her home because her car broke down, And he's like, well, I got a shop, so I'll take it in the shop and I'll fix it for you. I'll take you home right now, So they go home. They're hanging out. Benny's just being a weirdo because he just doesn't know how to function away from his... If he's not at his work and he's not with his sister, he cannot function, homie. So he can't just relax with this chick and have a beer, So he's like, gives her a rain check for the beer. They roll out. And then later on, they have another date. And she asks him, hey, I still got that beer for you. And he's like, you know what? My life's complicated. And like, Ruthie's like, bro. So he blew it with Ruthie right then and there, The whole time while June and Sam are kind of like getting closer and closer, right? So anyway, they're out and about. And Sam's kind of doing his thing. And he's kind of got a crowd going on because of his antics. And the little gears in Benny's head start turning. He's like, hey, this guy could be somebody, he could be like a show, like, he could do a show, So he's like kind of deciding for Sam that he's gonna go and be a showman, instead of just letting Sam do his thing. And so he sets up a whole thing with this cat who's played by William H. Macy, to go have him audition for like a show, And while they're talking there, Benny and June June and Sam are sitting there, and like June's like, we gotta tell him, bro. So Sam starts telling him, it's like, hey, me and June are kind of a thing. Pisses Benny off, so he kicks Sam out. So Sam takes off for a little bit, but as soon as Sam takes off, June throws a fit, freaks out, has just an attack at the house. So she's like, so Benny's like trying to be the good older brother, and like, oh, I'm trying to make you feel better, So she wants some tapioca pudding. Sorry, this is running a long time, so I'm gonna try to speed it up. So anyway, while he's taking off, he goes and tries to hit up Ruth, trying to, ask her for help, but also, trying to make amends because she's pissed off at him, right? This whole time, Sam and June take off. They just jump on a bus and they're leaving, homies. So, while they're taking off, she has an episode, and like she hasn't had one with Sam to this level, So we're getting to see the foreshadowing coming up of her outbursts, her legendary outbursts, where basically the bus had to stop, everybody evacuated. She's having a freak out inside the bus, walking back and forth. 2 nurses have to go in there, or not nurses, EMS staff jump her basically in the bus, and it turns into a big old thing. And finally, they're at the hospital there, mental hospital. Dr. Garvey's telling Benny, bro, you gotta go home. You're not gonna see her. And as he's walking out, he sees Sam, and they have a little talk, and Benny like grabs Sam, slams up against the wall, and he's like just talking smack, and then Benny's like, you know what, bro, you're just scared, and he is, because he's worried about his sister, and he's let it consume his whole life. So, he's got to learn to let go. So they hatch a plan to go into the hospital to go see June. And, so to get in, they kind of got to sneak in. Sam pretends to be one of the wards of the hospital, so that way he can clear the hallway for Benny to go talk to his sister, And he's sitting there talking to his sister, and his sister's all pissed off at him, but he's like, dude, come on. Like, we can make this work, How about we get you an apartment? How about you live your own life, and I'll come around whenever you need me, if that works for you, You can have your own life. And, that's when Dr. Garvey shows up, and she's like, dude, you're not even supposed to be here. Give me a reason why I don't lock you up. And he's like, but anyway, she's a little bit lenient, finally lets him in. They go ahead and talk, and this whole time, June's still pissed off because she still thinks that Benny ran off Sam. But then you see Sam swinging in the window with this, like, I think he's like 5 stories up, swinging in the window to see her, So she finally says, yes, she wants to have the apartment, and then try to live that way instead of being in the group home, So it all ends with Sam and June in their apartment, and Benny and Ruthie finally getting together and having a, starting a date, It's a really sweet little story, about family and mental illness, So anyway, this has been really long. I apologize. I really enjoyed this movie. And there's a lot of beats that I wanted to get through and talk about. Plus, I had to stop and take a drink of water break because I was hurting. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Sharing is caring. Y a los guachos firme, Holmes.